NASA has been receiving bizarre messages from interstellar space, and well, Voyager 1 has some chilling messages for us. So in today's video, we'll tell you about the message Voyager 1 has sent out and everything else you need to know about this situation. So without further ado, let's get started. The computer that is in charge of keeping the antenna on Voyager 1 pointed toward Earth is sending out wrong number sequences. There are rows of zeros in these sequences. Members of the mission team, like project manager Suzanne Dodd, who started working on the Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft in 1984 as her first job after college, are trying to figure out what exactly is happening on this faraway probe. Soon after Dodd graduated from college in 1984, she started working on the spacecraft. The Voyager 1 spacecraft is going through space between the stars and sending strange information back to Earth. NASA engineers don't know what to do with these numbers. At this point, the readings about the 1970s space probe's position seem to have been made at random, or they don't seem to match any possible place where the spacecraft could be. The bad information is coming from a piece of equipment on board called an Attitude Articulation and Control System, or AACS for short. While the vehicle is in space, this piece of equipment measures, reports, and changes its position. The system keeps an antenna pointed at Earth at all times. This lets it send data back to its home base. The strange thing that just happened makes it hard to know how the long-term mission will go from here on out. Since Voyager 1 is still sending data from its scientific instruments, the United States Space Agency has decided that the controls are still working, even though the data being sent is too complicated to understand. It looks like it's working fine in every other way. A mystery like this is kind of par for the course at this point in the Voyager mission, said Suzanne Dodd, who is in charge of the Voyager 1 and 2 projects. Both Voyager 1 and 2 are almost 45 years old, which is a lot longer than what was thought to be their lifespan when they were made. She said that interstellar space is full of radiation and that no spacecraft has ever been there before. Because of this, she said, it's almost certain that strange things will happen there. There are 14.5 billion miles between Voyager 1 and Earth. This means that light travels at a speed of about 20 hours and 33 minutes per mile. In other words, it takes about 2 days between when Voyager gets a message and when it gets a reply. Dodd said that the engineering team will have to overcome some major problems, but I have faith that our team will find a way to solve this problem using telemetry, you might say. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are two twin spacecraft that have been doing research all over the solar system since 1977. Their first job was to find out more about Jupiter and Saturn, as well as Saturn's moons and rings. Because the mission was only going to 2 planets, they were only made to last for 5 years. Engineers were happy with how the mission was going so far, so they quickly added Uranus and Neptune to the list of planets they wanted to study. Both of these spacecraft have looked at a total of 4 planets, 48 moons, and different magnetic fields and ring systems on those planets. Every year, spacecraft produces about 4 watts less power, which makes it harder for the spacecraft to run as many systems. Some of the equipment has been turned off so that the team can save some power. So far, none of the scientific equipment has been turned off. The goal, according to NASA, is to keep using the Voyagers until after the year 2025. The AACS is in charge of how the 45-year-old spacecraft is oriented. In addition to its other jobs, it makes sure that Voyager 1's high-gain antenna stays pointed right at Earth, which lets the spacecraft talk to Earth. Even though the telemetry data the AACS is sending back is wrong, there's a lot of evidence that it is still working. For example, the data might seem like they were made at random, or they might not show any of the states that the AACS is even theoretically capable of being in. The problem hasn't set off any of the onboard systems that protect against faults. These systems should put the spacecraft into a state called safe mode, in which only the most important tasks are done, so the engineers will have more time to figure out what's wrong. The signal from Voyager 1 hasn't gotten weaker either, which means that the high-gain antenna is still facing Earth the way it was supposed to. The group will keep a close eye on the signal as they continue their investigation to find out if the invalid data is coming from the AACS directly, or if it's coming from some other system that's also making and sending telemetry data. The team can't guess what this might mean for how long the spacecraft will be able to continue collecting and sending scientific data until they know more about what's going wrong. Dodd said that it's possible that the team won't be able to find the source of the anomaly and will have to learn to live with it instead. If they can figure out where the problem is coming from, they might be able to fix it by making changes to the spacecraft's software or by using one of the backup hardware systems. It wouldn't be the first time the crew of the Voyager had to use spare parts. In 2017, the Voyager 1's main thrusters started to show signs of wear and tear. So the spacecraft's engineers decided to switch to a different set of thrusters that had been used when the spacecraft had been close to planets before. Even though they hadn't been used in 37 years, those thrusters still worked fine. Voyager 2, the twin of Voyager 1, is now 12.1 billion miles or 19.5 billion kilometers from Earth, and it's still working well. Both of these spacecraft are unique because they're the only ones that have ever taken measurements in space between stars. The Sun creates a barrier around the planets in our solar system called the heliosphere. The information that the planets give us from this area has helped us learn more about the heliosphere. Every year, each spacecraft makes about 4 watts less electrical power. This limits how much equipment can be used on the spaceship. The mission engineering team has turned off a number of subsystems and heaters to save power for scientific equipment and important systems. There have been no reports of any scientific equipment breaking down because of the lack of power. While the engineers keep trying to figure out what Voyager 1 is trying to tell them, the scientists working on the mission will continue to use the information that's being sent from the unique vantage point of the spacecraft. Most people think that the main suspect in this investigation is a problem with the circuitry of the onboard electronics. Or could the spacecraft be affected by cosmic radiation from a part of the edge of the solar system that we don't know much about? If the electronics on the spacecraft were to fail, it would send us some signals to tell us what was wrong, but that's not the case at all. Dodd says that the people who designed the circuitry and layout of Voyager 1 have most likely retired or died since the project was finished. There's a good chance we won't be able to figure out what caused this strange thing to happen, and if that happens, we will move carefully while taking steps to get back to doing business as usual. On the other hand, she says, it's possible we'll never be able to solve these telemetry problems. But after that, it's just a matter of getting used to the new reality, which is confusing but safe. Dodd says, it just makes it harder if we don't know what the odd thing is. You need to be more careful with your next steps to make sure you don't do anything too dangerous that could endanger the spacecraft. But one thing is for sure, Voyager 1 keeps sending back scientific information every day, and there's no sign that it will ever stop doing this. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and comment down below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching this video.